2019, wow. Us DJs, we tour like chickens with our heads cut off. Like when you're in that mouse wheel, you don't stop. You just keep going and going and going. So that's what I was doing. I've been touring like a crazy person forever.
There was a time last summer when I was DJing 5 days a week in 5 different countries.
I really was traveling a lot. I was doing about 130 to 160 cities a year, which is extremely a lot.
2019 was probably the best year of my life. I think we were basically scheduled up till September, October gigs-wise, and things were just doing really well. I was meeting a lot of people and traveling to a lot of cities and countries that I've always wanted to travel to, and it was a really exciting year ahead.
The music industry was thriving in 2019.
The Philippines has reported the first death from the new coronavirus outside of China.
Premier décès par le coronavirus en dehors de l'Asie, donc le premier décès en Europe.
Egypt's health ministry has announced the first confirmed case of COVID-19 in Africa. The case was detected.
Registriamo 10.000 vittime, abbiamo superato 10.000 vittime.
Victoria will be in lockdown within the next 48 hours. Here are the latest developments in the coronavirus crisis.
To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency.
We are collectively telling cafes, pubs, bars and restaurants to close and not to open tomorrow.
The first time I heard about the coronavirus was, of course, through the news. It was hard to believe it would have gone so fast and it would have changed the shape of our society in such a short time.
Me and my manager, Ed Carney, we were getting temperature checks on our head till we came into Pisa airport. And even then, my tour manager was like, nah, it's fine, it's fine. I was like, mate, this is not fine. This is serious. We're going to not be working soon.
It was the 3rd week of January. That's when I first started hearing about it, but I had no idea that it would impact me the way that it has impacted me.
I think that's initially what we always think at first, that it'll never affect us. As a society as a whole, we thought it would never reach us, but we were really wrong.
The reality is that I think I was not really aware how big and how quick things were coming.
Mid-February, while I was in London, I had to go to Italy for work. And as soon as I stepped off the airplane, they were monitoring temperatures. And that's when it really hit home, like this is really serious and that this is gonna change everything.
My last gig was in South Africa. I remember I was at Ultra South Africa. I was supposed to go into Abu Dhabi, and Abu Dhabi had a massive cancellation because they had found out that Corona has hit the hotel, and they had the whole hotel where we were supposed to stay in a complete lockdown.
My last gig was in Melbourne on March the 8th. And my next gig then was Miami. Even when I landed back from Australia, I was like, I'm not sure Miami's gonna go ahead. And even people were still saying, then even my American agent was like, no, it's cool, it's going ahead. And I was like, nah, I can't see this. I can't see why would you close a massive 10,000 person event but then not shut a load of clubs in a small area with loads more than 10,000 people? Didn't make any sense to me. And then, one by one things started getting cancelled, and then that was it, game over. And when Miami was cancelled, you knew from then on everything was going to be cancelled, and it was.
The day after we had the concert in Johannesburg, we were all sitting down at the breakfast. I remember having a discussion about are you gonna go? Are you gonna go? And everybody was having the same question, feeling a huge amount of responsibility. Will I let the people down? Or will I let my family down? Do I have to take responsibility as an individual? Or do I have to take responsibility as an artist? It was a very hard and decision that no one could answer.
No one was wearing masks at the time. It was still very fresh and very new. And I still don't think people felt that it was that serious. And it was a surreal thing to be DJing in a room full of like 1,000 people when you're just starting to hear about this lockdowns in the beginning of a pandemic.
A lot of rumors started floating around online, especially on social media, and we were hearing different things and we didn't know what to trust or what to believe. And for the business side of things and for the gigging and the touring, it was just a matter of opening up your email every morning to find that another 10 gigs have been cancelled and everything was wiped out. I think within about 3 days, my whole diary was just completely wiped out for the year.
I was in New York. I had to make a decision if I was going to go play in St. Martin at SXM Festival. Many people were already not going. I had a full weekend of tours. I was going St. Martin to Mexico City to Vegas. All these big festivals were happening, and I had to make a decision. Am I going to go to SXM? And from New York. Like, New York was already starting to... there was a weird energy in the air. You feel it.
It's something you could smell on the air, that something was not right, something was like, it was going really faster than what everybody could have ever imagined. It was hard to believe that in such a short amount of time, our entire beloved industry would have been under the shock of such a small, tiny enemy. When
I arrived in SXM, people were still trying to kiss me and stuff, and I was like elbows and feet. And I was really sharing this, and I wasn't doing it out of fear. I was there to share my positive vibes for the last party on earth, because that's what it was being dubbed as.
10 days before the government locked us down, I went to the studio, I got all my gear. We're living in weird times, so I've had to bring my studio home. So basically that's it, that's the setup. There's my cat. One of the positives of working from home, really, you have your cat in the studio with you.
So it was literally fear and anxiety, and my whole year was planned.
I think this pandemic has tapped into a collective trauma, something that we've never really experienced before. There's certain things like we all touch upon in life, these givens in life, death, birth of children, etc., relational struggles. But something like this is A, universal. This is B, going to touch everyone. This is C, something that we've not really experienced before.
What made me most fearful is just that we don't know nothing about it. Every day we're like checking the news, and that's what makes me nervous more than anything.
My friend was sharing stories about how people he knew my age had died. I was thinking, fucking hell, I could actually die. It sort of dawned on me, rather than just being sensible and protecting others, I was like, fuck, I could die from this.
I had no idea how long lockdown was going to be, but I started hearing even about Ibiza, how some DJs have already canceled their entire summer. And this was more at the beginning of lockdown, that they're going to cancel their residencies. And then you start hearing, August. And then when I started hearing that kind of stuff, you can make your own assumptions that we don't know how long we're going to be in this for.
It's like the rug has been pulled out from under our feet, like overnight. I mean, in a few short weeks, everything stopped and everyone is affected. I don't know anyone that's not affected from the top to the bottom.
People have probably no idea how big is our industry. People that is like constantly working in the shadow. People who manages from record labels to artists and things. All concerts, bartenders, technician, all the roadies, all the companies that own lights and concerts and things. All the people that do truck driving, people who sells food, ticket sellers. It's like it's an infinite.
In 2019, the electronic music industry was worth around $7.3 billion US, and the vast majority of that was from live events. That represented around 60%, or $4.4 billion US. In 2020, the value of the industry could fall in value by 56%, and that's mainly because of the cancellation of club nights and festivals. That's a loss of around $4.1 billion.
The effect on the festival market in 2020 has been catastrophic and far-reaching and profound. I appreciate that this has been devastating for many areas of the economy, including retail. But the difference with retail is you can open back up relatively quickly. With a festival, if you've missed that window, that ability to earn, then you've missed it for the entire year.
Right now, we're hoping that October is going to be, end of September, October is going to be a time when we can get back to work. But I said to myself, we need to forget about 2020.
When the whole pandemic came, we had to furlough people. How can we reshape and minimize the team to a very core thing in order to continue?
As a DJ manager in COVID, one of the first things that we did was go back and make sure that all our housekeeping was in order with collecting the royalties of our masters, and on our publishing, any money during COVID is a bonus.
We charge a booking fee to the promoter. We charge that in advance, which allows us to facilitate the booking process. Well, in order for the business to survive, what we said to promoters is, you've already paid the booking fee. You can utilise that for when the date actually happens. So if that show happens in 2021, the booking fee is already paid. In terms of refunding, it's just not possible because the business would collapse.
The fact that there was no clubs on, there's no festivals, no events, really sort of hit hard in what we report on. A lot of our stuff have been furloughed, and our capacity to produce a magazine has been very, very limited. Festivals and clubs employ a number of people directly, and that huge drop in the amount of revenue from live events in 2020 is clearly having a massive impact on those people that rely on those events for their livelihood. Festivals and clubs employ a number of people directly, and many others in ancillary services that support the whole infrastructure and ecosystem of those events.
Everyone's working together because we want there to be an industry at the end of this. We want there to be people going to raves. We want there to be raves to go to. Like the gigs that have been cancelled, I've obviously, the money if I've been paid that's gone back to the promoters, because what's the point in taking their money if they can't do another gig? If that bankrupts them, that club is no longer there, so you're not going to be able to play there, people aren't going to be able to go there, and it's a knock-on effect.
Some people are saying we won't be able to DJ again or tour again until the summer of 2021. That's almost a year and a half from now. Well, when we come out of this, it's going to be completely different than what we've known before. I mean, things may be smaller, festivals may be smaller, things like that, because travel may be restricted. There's so many unknowns now.
It was and it remains deeply difficult and uncertain time, because for many independent festivals, our impact survey suggests 92% of them, they could potentially collapse under the refund requests. So there is a real possibility of a festival wasteland in 2021.
I think it's going to be such a difficult time for the promoters and the organisers. They don't know when things are going to go ahead. They don't know how they're going to go ahead. They don't know, are people even going to come to them anymore because they're going to be nervous about going to clubs. I think it's going to change the scene for a long time. I think it's even whenever we start opening up again, it's not going to be the same for quite a while.
The day, Thursday, March 12th, when I was at SXM, I started seeing a couple people live streaming, like Quarren stream. And Friday already, when I was like just going back to Miami and quarantining, we were full on in the WhatsApp chats with like my tech team and with my marketing and my management, like stream. Like, how do we get this up? Like, I even see I Googled, how to live stream. Human Nature, 4 p.m. on Twitch.
We are live at 5 p.m.
For me, the idea of doing the streams, I've been involved into music. Music has been part of my journey since I'm 14 years old. And I was like suddenly grounded, and I was like, I'm not gonna stop because I'm grounded. I'm not doing this because I wanna be in front of thousands of people. I've always done this because I love the sound of it. I love the touch of it. I love the feeling of it. And I did something that got me connected to a community over the world with people, and I need to continue doing it.
It's a very conflicting thing that I have with streaming, and I haven't done one since we've been in lockdown because honestly, I haven't felt that I've had anything to say. It's not that I have not decided not to do one ever again, but for me, I just come from a time when clubbing was cultural, and I feel a lot of streaming is just entertainment.
I think fame being highly addictive, like any compulsion, we need more and more and more. Again, I know from my own experience as touring and releasing, and from many of my peers, it becomes a need, this internal pressure to feel validated. Not all of us, but I think there is a huge need for that. And with that, there's the elation, but also a struggle if we're not getting it. So I think the current pandemic is impacting that.
We moved to doing lots and lots of live streams. I think I've done like maybe 9 already. And I think that's a great way to keep connecting with your fan base, and also it gives me something to do.
Within a week, live streams were just like everywhere.
We're here on the trampoline. The quarantine mix is recorded. Ralph's trampoline.
We came to the conclusion that doing a mix where each week you get people involved, so they pick the track list.
You pick the tunes, I mix them. This week we're going for techno.
Why not do something where everyone can come together? And then we drew up a list of like genres or like themes for the mixes, and then I don't know, man. I just thought again, to get a bit of traction and to get people to kind of watch the videos and get involved, I might as well dress up like a bellend.
All the tracks are compiled, ready, mixed, it's ready to go. This week I've chosen Garage. Download it and have a lovely, 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 lovely time. Way.
The coolest thing about not just streaming, but streaming on Twitch is that, you know, historically the closest relationship you could have with your idol or your fan was on Instagram. Instagram was like the closest you could be, you know, because you could find out what they're doing from the past day. But then on Twitch, you can actually write the story with them.
We can hang out, we can make some music, we can eat some pizza, we can make some pizza, we can feed the unfortunate, we can do everything. We can take over the world and just, hi mommy.
Like, my fans are interacting with me during the stream, and basically they can dictate where the stream goes, what kind of music, what direction we go with the music. That's something we didn't have before.
You're locked in to human nature.
Before this pandemic, there was maybe a disbursement of connection. We'd have our fan base and we would connect with people, but now there is this overall sense of we're kind of all in this together. So I wonder whether some of those boundaries haven't been taken down, have just been lightened somewhat, because we want a bit more connection, we want a bit more holding, I think, with our, whether that's our fans, with our peers, with our family. There is this sense of a want for community.
I always say what I do is bringing together people through sound and sort of uplifting them vibrationally and spiritually and sexually. And I sort of hope that I'm facilitating a lot of people's self-expression, and I feel that streaming is limited in that way. You don't feel a kick drum coursing through your body. You don't get to hear music sonically the way I feel it should be heard.
There's been some amazing streams, like Dylan Francis and Diplo do a wicked one, crazy, like mad visuals and stuff. Maceo Plex did some really good ones. I really like the Defected and Glitterbox ones as well. They've been really good. And I've got no problem with any of them. It's just for me, you have to do something a little different. But the Beatport one I did, it was the Beatport Connect. It was right at the start of the whole lockdown thing. So it was DJs from all over the world for 24 hours. So that was the angle there. I feel everything's got to have a bit of an angle with streaming, because you're beaming into people sat down, or people sat on a computer, or people led in bed, or whatever.
Well, we've done quite a few evenings. We've all kind of got set up on Zoom, myself and all my friends. We did a few of the Defected festivals. I've also watched a few of Low Stepper Saturdays. They were great. And I've tuned into quite a few of the Eats Everything lives as well. It's quite fun because obviously you're all on one screen, so I'll have all my friends on my phone and then I'll have the live stream on my laptop and we're all just kind of dancing around our rooms. It is a bit bizarre, but it's something that we've all kind of adjusted to, which has been great.
You know, the 3D experience is so important because it's the fabric of life. You know, we're social beings, we're social creatures, and everything that we do is relationship based. All of our senses are peaked and intertwined when we're in 3D.
What's nice about clubbing is that it's a much more physical and 3D experience. So when the stream started, I felt that it was kind of antithetical to what my kind of concept of clubbing was, which was about being physically in a space. I don't like the idea of it being like mediated by a technology, and I don't think it can be replicated in that way.
I think to summarise what I feel the difference is between a digital performance or communication and a very visceral embodied experience is we're only really partaking in a two-dimensional setting. We've got our ears and our eyes. So I think we're missing the whole breadth of that, you know, from the Jungian concept, this collective unconscious, this sense of everybody else's energy in the room. I think we lose that. I think viscerally we're not as embodied, we're not as connected. It doesn't really penetrate to our soul.
Previous to COVID, I think it was only some dedicated sites that were really doing well on streaming. We used to do our Friday sessions and the DJ Mag HQ sessions, and they were very, very popular. Now what you'll find is the DJs are now taking it upon themselves to do the streams. The labels have now jumped in as well, and it's going to be interesting to see how it moves forward after COVID as well.
I 100% am going to continue with streams, doesn't matter what happens in the future. If we're going back to full-on touring, I will incorporate live streaming to my subscribers so they can come with me all around the world. I'm not saying I will stream every single show, but if I have a residency in Ibiza, I want them there with me.
You can't see their body language. So that for me is what I miss about it the most. But like I've got a couple of messages before from, you know, NHS nurses or doctors that are saying, you know, I've had a bad day and I've just checked out your live stream and it really helped, and stuff like that makes it worth it for us. And I think just because we can still, you know, we're still serving a purpose somewhere or another, and that's, you know, that's what makes it important for me.
As creative artists, when we compare ourselves against some of these people that have been, you know, instrumental in keeping society together, there's this sense of, well, all I do is make music, all I do is perform and entertain. And I think from my perspective, I can go and I can reframe that and say, well, music is so integral to regulation of everybody on a daily basis that, of course, we're not in the front line. We don't actually go and physically support other people, but what we do on a creative platform is instrumental in the regulation and the emotional holding of probably every person I know, probably every person we all know.
Virtual world has so much to offer us, and they also have a whole other world that we can also coexist in. You know, whether it's virtual music festivals or it's esports or it's creating music, or there's so many different options in the virtual world. Also, not only to earn income, but just to coexist and create.
Monetizing streaming is an interesting question. I know Facebook are looking at an initiative where they're talking of the DJs setting up camp and charging people to come on board and listen to these streams. Will it work? We're not too sure at the moment, but if you're a DJ, you've got a big fan engagement, potentially yes, it will work.
Lockdown has completely inspired and motivated me to think in a different way. You know, when your touring income goes to zero, it forces you to look for opportunities, to think in different ways and explore. And I've found that process so enlightening and so rewarding.
Finances aside, touring in general isn't a healthy thing. You know, being up all night for, you know, or being up for days on end, and, you know, having a really crazy schedule is not good for the body.
Me and my son are closer than we ever have been because I'm here all the time. I'm still working at home 4 days a week. I'm still locked in the studio making music and doing mixes and stuff like that. But I've been having loads of sleep. That's another positive actually, loads of sleep. Like loads more sleep than I've had. I reckon I'd probably given myself another 5 years by this little period of rest.
It's been a time out. I mean, in a really weird way, if you want to look at this in a spiritual way, I probably wouldn't have ever stopped. I have a problem saying no. And then it's, well, just this one more gig or just this one more thing. It wasn't until everything was no and I had to be in one place and I had to rest that I really understood what rest could do for you.
Welcome to Kitchen DIJON. Today we're making some motherfucking vegan sweet potato crust pizza. Step 1, chop up some shit.
Lockdown, it's almost like going through a rehab of planes and hotels. I was almost like in a burnout. I really was traveling a lot. I somehow didn't know how to stop, so it forced me to land and crash on my knees.
in order for you to contribute to your work, you have to have a life outside of that to even replenish the well, so to speak. And replenishing the well is seeing friends, seeing family, being inspired to write music, researching music, listening to music that you love that you can even put back into what you're doing, because it was always the next gig, the next remix, the next record, and you don't really have time to be centered in order to create. And there's this whole movement about you need to be bored, you need to have time to do nothing in order for that to inspire you.
Being put into this time now where we are forced to stop and not tour so much or not create so much has enabled us to really look into our lives and perhaps why we started music in the first place, the nourishment it gave us, our family connections, our friends connections, and turn a bit more inwards to have a bit more of a healthy perspective of who we are.
I needed the time to almost detoxify myself from this massive and life that I had, this lifestyle that was like crazy. And I've been focusing myself a lot into this, into coming down, into grounding myself.
Oh, j'ai trop froid aux pieds là.
Sneaky. Oh, this is a lot easier when you're not hammered.
I think what will happen is once we are allowed to have a certain amount of people socially distanced in some kind of club environment, I think we'll all just go back to basics and just be playing small clubs and not travelling. You know, you just go back to being a resident in your local club, which I think I personally find quite an exciting kind of challenge to go totally back to basics.
You could, if you were really clever, you could go through and like pick like 20 tunes that are all like have a connotation towards being free, and play your first set could be all of that, and people will go mental, I reckon.
You know what? I think they're going to go mental whatever you play.
Yeah.
I think just just that feeling of being in amongst a large amount of people with a kind of physical community together. I think the thrill of that is just going to drive people over the edge no matter what you play.
We're gonna finally, and I think this in every country, in every place of the world, we're gonna enjoy what we have locally. We're gonna go to the thing that is maybe around us, 5 kilometers away, and we're gonna have to be creative with what we have around.
Getting back to a normality, I can't even begin to imagine how clubs will manage it, whether they just allocate distancing from people.
I mean, we're all being told to social distance, but part of the love about being in a club is that we're all together and we're all like dancing with each other. So I can't ever see myself doing a gig where we're all being told to stand 2 meters apart from each other, because I just don't think it would work, and I don't think it's sort of the essence of parties.
I don't think there can be a new normal with raving, to be honest. I think it's got to be how it was or not at all. What's the point in going to a rave where you could stand 2 meters apart from each other? It doesn't make, and who's going to fucking pay attention to that? Who's going to police that? It doesn't make sense. It's just everything that raving isn't.
You look at, for example, venues reopening in Spain at the moment, the advice is you can operate at 30% capacity, and I just can't see how that's economically viable.
But I think from an artistic perspective, even if things do get back to normal, who will feel safe to continue going to performances, to concerts, etc.?
I think there'll be a half and half, at first. At least I'll be on that kind of, on that side where I'll be elbowing for a while. But I can't wait to get back to hugs, for sure. This is the first time we're going in a store in 2.5 months. Feels awkward. Will I add a clear DJ booth to my rider? I'll be honest with you, for the first bit of gigs, really depends when we go back. I will do that, yes.
There's so many things going around. Everyone's gonna have to be tested, and then they're talking about these immunity passports, and now people are saying these quick tests that maybe people are gonna have to get tested before they go into the club. And we have a virus that transcends race, class, socioeconomic status, fame, wealth, power. No one is exempt. It doesn't matter who you sleep with or who you love or what color your skin is. We're all in this together.
The dance music scene has been rocked before. It's like when everything was all vinyl and we had the death of vinyl. So I've seen ups and downs within the industry many times before, and we're still here. Dance music scene's been around for 30 years. 1 year is not going to stop it. It's not going to kill it. It's not going to derail us off the tracks.
You cannot stop humans from interacting with each other. That's, especially you can't do that for a year. So you will see us being very creative as a human species, and we'll figure it out,
Clubs are going to open at some point, and when they do, I'm going to be stood at the front with my record bag in my hand going, let me in, please.
I think what's happening with COVID has really made motherfuckers realize what's important in life. And all of this shit that we run around trying to get fame, money, at the end of the day, nothing matters except your fucking health and the health of those people that you love. And everything else is a fucking cherry on the cake.
It's unfortunate the situation we're in, but we adapt. That's what we do. That's our human natures. We adapt. And the question is, how are we adapting as a music industry, and how are we going to come back and solidify like a new sustainable foundation as a music industry and kind of be innovative for everyone else and be an example?